and spending time with friends.
Ellie Edwards celebrated Christmas with her friends at a bar and was seen having a good time. As the hours passed, events occurred that abruptly ended the festivities, creating a panic-stricken atmosphere in the bar. In today's first case, we will discuss an attack that was caught on camera moment by moment, the story behind it, and the capture of the perpetrator. Additionally, we'll witness a welfare check conducted by the police, the horrifying discovery made, and the events of that tragic night. Brace yourselves. We're stepping into the crime scene now. Ellie Edwards, also known as Ellie May, was born in England in 1993. On the evening of December 24, 2012, Ellie and her sister went out for Christmas celebrations and visited the Lighthouse pub in Wallasey. Security cameras captured Ellie in high spirits, embracing friends, and having a great time. However, the events that followed would shatter the Edwards family's life as someone was determined to ruin the evening. Minutes before midnight, the UK emergency number 9999 received a call reporting a shooting. Upon arriving quickly, the police learned that 12 shots had been fired and immediately cordoned off the area. Witnesses described a gunman opening fire at the bar's front entrance before fleeing in a dark-colored vehicle.
Only 10 minutes before Christmas Day when the attack took place. In this CCTV,
Ellie was among the injured and was rushed to Airop Park Hospital in the city, where she tragically passed away shortly after. During a press conference on Christmas Day, the police reported a single fatality and 4 injuries from the attack, assuring that they would catch the culprit and bring them to justice, though they didn't believe Ellie was the intended target. They urged anyone with mobile phone or CCTV footage to support the investigation. CCTV analysis showed the assailant arriving in a dark-colored Merseydie and leaving the scene after the attack. The masked gunman fired 12 shots before dashing back to the Merseydie and escaping. Investigating the motive, police patrolled the bar area and, 2 days later, announced the arrest of a 30-year-old man and a 19-year-old woman, whose names were withheld. However, these were mistaken arrests made in panic, and both were later released. Police spokesperson Con Critchley stated that the perpetrators would face justice, and the investigation was ongoing without slowing down. He hinted that Ellie was a random victim of a gang feud, carefully being investigated. On December 29th, police announced the arrest of a third suspect, not the attacker, but an accomplice. Security footage from the evening of December 31st showed the Merseydie used in the crime being set on fire minutes later. Detectives, following up rigorously, found the vehicle burned to a shell, identifying it as the crime's car stolen for the purpose of committing the crime. The driver, knowing the police were closing in, had attempted to destroy potential evidence by setting the car ablaze. The breakthrough led to the arrest of a man and a woman on January 11th, with the man identified as 23-year-old Connor Chapman, who had a substantial criminal record.
Moments later, Chapman was arrested.
Raised in Birkenhead, Merseyside, Connor spent much of his childhood with his grandparents. He committed his first crime at the age of 14 and was prosecuted for car theft in 2014. Released on parole, he later violated his parole and was caught driving without a license. By 2017, Connor found himself charged with car theft, possession of illegal substances, and traffic violations. Fleeing the police, he swerved into oncoming traffic, hit another vehicle, then a pavement, forcing him to abandon the car and flee. Hidden in the bushes, Connor claimed he was merely waiting for a friend, denying involvement in the accident. His lawyer argued that Connor was under the influence of peers and battling various health issues. Admitting to dangerous driving, Connor was sentenced to just 8 months in prison and banned from driving for 2 years. Connor, also a father, had his first child while in prison, with a second on the way. He told the jury he wanted a fresh start and learned much from prison life, though his words seemed hollow. It emerged that Connor was a local gang member involved in drug dealing, burglary, and the theft of 2 electric scooters. His most devastating act would come on December 24, 2022, when he targeted Jake Duffy and Kieran Seld of a rival gang, shooting 12 times at the Lighthouse pub, severely injuring both but failing to kill them. Tragically, 26-year-old Ellie Edwards, who was merely enjoying an evening out with friends, was killed. Hundreds attended Ellie's funeral. Her coffin brought in a horse-drawn carriage. The Lighthouse pub closed for the day in her honor. Connor Chapman faced numerous charges, including Ellie's murder. His accomplice, 20-year-old Thomas Waring, was charged with carrying a prohibited weapon and assisting a criminal. Security footage captured Connor picking up the murder weapon, but the police never found it. His DNA was identified on a bullet casing and a red glove found at the scene. Thomas Waring was found guilty in July 2023 and sentenced to 9 years. Connor denied the accusations, claiming he was home wrapping Christmas presents at the time and had access to the car weeks before the murder, but wasn't limited to the day of the crime. He described the Merseydie as a pool car used by gang members for drug trafficking for weeks. Despite his denials, the evidence was overwhelming, and his trial lasted 3.5 weeks. In court, Judge Goose delivered a stark rebuke during the sentencing. "Your actions were as shockingly wicked as they were evil, ending the young life of Ellie Edwards," he proclaimed to Connor Chapman. Connor Chapman was convicted of the murder of Ellie Edwards and received a life sentence with a possibility of parole in 2071, by which time he will be 71 years old.
He's all we wanted, justice for Ellie. That's what it's always been about. Those 2 cowards in there decided to drag it out for 4 weeks, put all these people through that, and everyone else around it involved in the case. Can't thank the police enough for what they did, and we got there in the end.
Before we dive into our next story, if you could take a moment to hit that like button, it would mean the world to us. A single click for you is a huge boost of encouragement for us. Sasha Samsudean was born in New York, USA, on July 4, 1988. By the age of 27, she was working at a real estate agency in Orlando, where she excelled as a social media manager. Known for her vibrant, fun-loving nature and sharp intellect, colleagues often praised her outstanding performance at work. On October 17, 2015, during the last week of the football season, Sasha was excited to support her city's team at an Orlando game. Their victory led her and her friends to celebrate the night away, enjoying drinks and dancing at a nightclub. After the night ended, Sasha spoke with her friend Anthony, planning to meet for breakfast the next morning before they went their separate ways. However, Sasha failed to show up the next day and didn't respond to Anthony's messages. Initially thinking she might have overslept from a hangover, Anthony grew worried as hours passed without a word from her. He eventually called a mutual friend to check on Sasha at her apartment. The friend arrived to find Sasha's car in the parking lot, but received no answer at her door. Police dispatched to the scene arrived at Sasha's apartment around 8 a.m. to find it securely locked. Upon entry, they noted everything appeared orderly with no signs of forced entry, and nothing amiss in the kitchen or living room. Venturing into the bedroom, however, they made a grim discovery: locks of hair peeking from beneath the quilt and a hand draped over the side of the bed. Sasha Samsudean had been subjected to rape and strangled to death, her arms marked by defensive wounds and scratches. The room was heavy with the scent of cleaning products. The sheets bore unsightly bleach-like stains. Cleaning supplies were left out in the open, with the most damning piece of evidence being a condom wrapper beside the bed, peculiar given Sasha's solitary living situation, harboring 2 distinct fingerprints. The medical examiner, speaking after the autopsy, noted a severe internal neck fracture in Sasha, a condition rarely seen before. The investigation gained traction with all 15 cameras around the building, functioning and capturing crucial details. Stephen, the security personnel, reported seeing Sasha returning home early that morning without her ID or keys, initially denying her entry. She later entered following another resident, struggling to remember her door code before suggesting her keys might be in her car. Moments after they stepped outside, Sasha recalled the code, and they made their way back to her apartment, all under Stephen's observant gaze. Focusing on the timeline of Sasha's departure from the nightclub to her apartment, which was about an hour's walk, the police navigated through a busy night in town, managing to identify Sasha on several cameras. Wearing white jeans and a purple top, she stood out, with one camera capturing her walking with 2 individuals. The police released these images in a press release, prompting witnesses to come forward. 2 women reported seeing Sasha downtown, noticeably intoxicated and without her ID or phone. Concerned for her safety, they arranged an Uber to take her home. Sasha, insisting her apartment was nearby, chose to walk, pointing out her building to the woman. An investigation of Sasha's phone revealed messages with a man named Ben, with whom she had planned to meet that weekend. Ben mentioned going to another party, but it was discovered that Sasha messaged Ben in the early hours, marking the last activity on her phone. Police considered Ben a prime suspect, taking his DNA sample, but his solid alibi quickly cleared him from suspicion. They also spoke with Taylor, who had been in a relationship with Sasha for 2 years. Taylor claimed to have been working at a bar that night, a statement verified by others, leading to his exclusion from the investigation after DNA analysis. Sasha Samsudean's funeral was held, gathering her family, friends, and loved ones for their final farewell. Meanwhile, the investigation was unyielding, yielding new security footage that showed Sasha entering the building at 1:46 a.m., followed inside by an unidentified male who inquired if she was all right. They ascended the stairs and 20 minutes later vanished from sight. Intriguingly, a familiar face emerged from the second floor carrying 2 trash bags, security guard Stephen Duxbury. Despite telling officers his shift ended at 6 a.m., he didn't leave the building until 6:39 a.m. Police questioned why he was taking out the trash, an unusual task for a security guard. A search warrant for Stephen's home led to the discovery of trash bags from Sasha's apartment. During a polygraph test, Stephen confidently denied entering her apartment, but the results indicated deception. His heart rate spiked and showed signs of lying when asked if he knew how she died, even though her cause of death hadn't been disclosed yet. Stephen mentioned she was strangled, a detail not yet public. Additionally, a match was found between a fingerprint under the toilet and Stephen's right thumb. Bite marks on his arm and scratches on his body pointed toward his involvement in the crime. Police theorized that Stephen took advantage of Sasha's inebriated state to enter her apartment, commit sexual assault, and then murder her, attempting to erase evidence with cleaning supplies. During the trial, Stephen's defense, led by attorney Aaron Delgado, argued forcefully that Stephen had never been in the apartment, presenting evidence to the contrary. They highlighted that shoe prints found in Sasha's apartment, which were suggested to match Stephen's, did not correspond with the size 45 shoes Stephen wears. Furthermore, Delgado pointed out the absence of any security footage showing Stephen entering or being in the victim's apartment. He criticized the police for not considering all witnesses and rushing to arrest. Nonetheless, the prosecution dismantled these claims with physical evidence and DNA matches found at the scene. After a 7-day trial and 4 hours of deliberation, Stephen was convicted of murder, receiving a life sentence without parole and an additional 15 years for assault, using a deadly weapon, and theft. Before we conclude this video, please be aware that the video on the left may be disturbing. It is recommended for adult viewing only. On the right, you'll find a playlist of videos that have been highly appreciated by our viewers.